Welcome to the Celtic Myth Pod Show, bringing the tales and stories of the ancient Celts to your fireside. Special episode number 3, Lughnasadh 2008. Hello, welcome to the Celtic Myth Pod Show. I'm Gary.
And I'm Ruth. And we've got a packed special episode for you this time. So we're going to skip the contact details and you'll find them at the end of the show as usual. So what have we got in this show?
Well, yes. Yeah. In this episode, we've decided to put 3 pieces of music, and they're all brilliant. We've also got a piece about Lughnasadh traditions from a wonderful unpublished book called Land, Sea and Sky, and we'll talk more about that later. Our main feature is, can you remember?
Oh yes, I can. An excerpt from a novel by Celtic romance author Kelley Heckart.
That's right.
And it's very good.
Yeah, I can't wait. So you'd like me to say anything else, perhaps?
So anyway, let's get on with the show. We'll start off with some news and views.
Great idea. One of our listeners, Jason, has told us about a stone circle being built by Celtic enthusiasts in Australia. He tells us that the Australian standing stones comprise 40 granite monoliths, and of these there's a circle of 24 stones representing 24 hours of the day, 3 central stones, 4 cardinal stones marking true north, east, south and west, and 7 stones marking summer and winter solstices, the longest and shortest days of the year. Why only 7, I wonder?
Yes.
Why not 8?
Have to have a look at the website.
And there's... Yeah, I'm a bit confused about that. But we'll surely figure it out. You can see pictures in our show notes, and we'll be publishing the full story on our site shortly.
Yes, it's interesting to think of stone circles in the States. Also, they hold a Celtic festival there every year.
Oh, do they?
That I did read. I think Jason put something on our forum about it.
Do you mean in the States or Australia?
Oh, what am I talking? Australia. I'm sorry, Jason. I do mean Australia.
So, yeah, it is. Yeah, and so they're holding a Celtic festival in Australia at these stones?
Yes. Once a year they hold a Celtic festival.
What a brilliant
And Jason
idea.
was actually saying it's the first one he's found in Australia. So if anybody goes, and Jason has also said he'll do a review for us when he goes, but if anybody else is going who's listening, please let us know. Let us know what it's like. Take some photos, and we'll do a review.
Yeah, superb. That sounds great. I'd love to go.
Anyway, talking of stone circles, it's quite odd because there's a similar project going on just down the road from us, within sight of the Long Man, and they've assembled some of the world's finest geomants. And they have assembled some of the world's finest minds on geomancy and earth energies, and they've come together to start to build this stone circle.
I heard something about this.
It's a 4-year project.
Right.
And various people are sponsoring the stones. Oh, I nearly knocked me notes over then. For various people are sponsoring the stones, and it's going to have disabled access by the time it's finished. And it's based on Stonehenge.
What, do you mean like one company is sponsoring a stone?
Well, yes, basically.
So like you go to a zoo and help own a wolf, you can own a stone?
That's basically what it is, yeah.
Oh, that's a clever idea.
It is, and they have a festival that goes with it. Again, you can see details of the festival and the stone circle in our show notes.
That'd be kind of nice to go to that as well, especially as it's so local.
Yes, we've actually only just missed it this year. I only found it after the festival, which was a bit of a shame, but maybe next year.
Absolutely. So let's have some music. Our first piece of music is from the Celtic folk rock band, the Connemara Stone Company. And they've given us permission to bring you a piece called the Kesh Jig. And you can listen to more of their music on MySpace. Address is in the show notes. remember earlier on we mentioned we were going to read a bit from an unpublished book? Well, that book is called Land, Sea and Sky, and it was written by a small group of Celtic scholars, and the pieces have been collated by Shae Clancy, and he's graciously allowed us to read you a section of the book. Shae Clancy and Francine Nicholson, I hope I've said her name properly, have collected essays from Celtic scholars to form a fascinating book that helps explain the difference between Celtic fact, what we actually know, from Celtic fiction, what we speculate. Sadly, the book has never been published, and Francine passed away in 2003. Shae has enabled the book to be published on the web, however, so you can read this study by going to the address given in the show notes. Francine Nicholson, the author of the piece that we're about to read, started the project about 10 years ago. She had a deep interest in all things Celtic and had an awesome knowledge of Celtic mythology and folklore. She dearly wanted to integrate genuine Celtic ideals and philosophies into her lifestyle and embarked on a voyage. She encountered many obstacles, countercurrents, contrary winds and conflicting tides that impeded her journey and sometimes sent her off course. She finally found her true bearings and, having arrived safely at her destination, vowed that she would do her best to help others avoid the obstacles that beset her. Francine Nicholson, M.A., was a librarian in New England and scholar of all things Celtic. The loss of her passing, perhaps appropriately on February the 1st, 2003, Immel, is poignantly crystallised by fellow Celtic scholar David Stifter. It's very sad news to hear that Francine Nicholson has left us. She had a vast and astounding erudition and knowledge of Celtic mythology and folklore, and her contributions were a great source of enrichment and information. I feel it as a heavy loss that she will no longer contribute to our discussions, and we wish her well in her further travels. Lughnasadh, the land gives birth. Lughnasadh lueahada kecha bliadna Connemara, fromad kech tored comabled, biad lusred a Lughnasadh. Apologies for my bad Irish on that one. But it means Lughnasadh, its Jews foretelling. In every distant year a taste of every fruit with flame, a meal of vegetables on Lughnasadh. Lughnasadh marked the beginning of harvest, a time when the first fruits were offered. The name refers to the figure of Lugh, the multi-skilled divine hero who in myth won the harvest from the natural forces who wanted to keep it for themselves. Heavy thunderstorms are not uncommon at the beginning of August in the Northern Hemisphere, and Lugh had the magical power, personal strength and acquired knowledge to control the floods and winds that often threatened the harvest before it could be gathered safely. The names of Lughnasadh. A number of folk etymologies have been associated with the term, but it comes from Lughnasadh, the games of Lugh. Two Irish medieval scribes asserted that Lugh ordained the games to commemorate his late wives, while another stated that the fearful queen, Teltu, requested the games as she lay dying after clearing the land around Tailton for farming. Another account says the games originated when the Tuatha De Danann celebrated Lugh's inauguration as king. A later scribe attempted to reconcile the traditions by saying that Lugh was Teltu's foster son, a statement without further substantiation. A different, possibly earlier name for Lughnasadh was Bron Drogain, meaning sorrow of the earth's travail, as in childbirth. This name echoes the story of Teltu, dying after working so hard to prepare the land for cultivation. It also suggests an image of the harvest as the offspring of the earth. The Manx equivalent is Lor Lwenis. Scottish, Lughnasadh, has largely given way to the English Lammas, loaf mass. Other names reflect adaptation to European calendars. Welsh Calan Awst, beginning of August, and Breton Gwelan Iost. Over and above these more generic names, Lughnasadh has acquired many more English names ranging from Garland to Sunday, to Well Sunday, to Jam Day. These names reflect the range of activities that make up the celebrations. The dating of Lughnasadh. Other feasts of the Celtic year have essentially settled on a specific, unvarying calendar date. Lughnasadh, however, although technically associated with the 1st of August, in practice has moved to various dates in period from roughly the mid-July to the middle of August. Some of the changes resulted from the confusion of changing from Julian to Gregorian calendars, when the 1st of August became the 11th-12th of August. Lughnasadh is unique in that its reason for being depends on the beginning of harvest, an activity whose date varies from one area to another. Different crops predominate in different places, and crops do not ripen at the same time everywhere. The beginning of August was when grain first ripened in ancient and medieval Ireland, and coincidentally, when potatoes first became the dominant crop in Ireland, they too were first dug at the beginning of August. Although many crop varieties are ready for harvesting long before August, wild berries continue to ripen at the same time as always, which may help to explain why berry picking persisted as a Lughnasadh time activity long after other customs had died out. When the original purpose of the dates to offer the first cuttings from the harvest ceased to be significant, the celebration moved to a more convenient time, or one with meaning for the people at the time. The general tendency to celebrate on Sunday reflected the need to confine the celebrations to a day already freed from work. Other changes resulted when local clergy attempted to replace Lughnasadh activities with Christianized versions, or with patterns to regional or local holy wells on the Sunday closest to the beginning of August. Pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick in Ireland and La Grange Tromenay in Brittany are but two examples. In Wales, harvest was once a communal activity, with the farmers from an area gathering at each farm in turn. While a symbolic first sheaf theoretically could be cut on each farm on the same day, harvest was actually a communal gathering, and at its end, a time for celebration. In Scotland, grain was harvested long after August began, and there, most Lughnasadh customs were transferred to Michaelmas, the 29th of September. In Brittany, the celebrations generally moved to a day significant in the life of a parish, such as the Feast of St. Ronan at Lochronan. Even in Ireland, most of the surviving celebrations no longer coincide with the beginning of harvest. Harvest customs. Crossing the border. Until recently, the month before harvest was a time of hunger for many people in Celtic countries. Even 100 years ago, July was known as Hungry July, or the time of cabbage, because many people subsisted only on cabbage or wild nettles until the new harvest began. Herding communities that relied on sheep's milk for their summer diet had to cut off that supply by separating ewes from lambs, so the ewes would be ready to breed and start the cycle again. With Lughnasadh came fresh, sweet berries of many sorts, new grain for bread, and new potatoes with their delicate skins. Talismans. In many places, processions to high places formed the heart of the Lughnasadh celebrations. Offerings of clooties, coins, or small items such as buttons, beads, and pins were left at designated points. Water would be drunk and bathed in at holy wells. Sitting in a prehistoric stone seat might be done to cure or prevent various ills. Garlands of flowers might be carried to a site and buried there to signify the end of summer and the return of its energy to the earth. Spancels used to tie horses or cows might be hung near holy wells to gain protection for the animals. Omens. As with the other quarter days, Lughnasadh was a time to take omens for the coming quarter. Time off. Lughnasadh-type celebrations typically took place on weekends or coincided with regional fairs when life veered from the norm. Kerry fishermen did not go to sea during the week before and after Lughnasadh. In parts of Scotland, a 2-week period of celebration was observed. Feasting. At Lughnasadh, feasting was based on newly harvested crops. In Ireland, this would be boxty or colcannon, made from new potatoes, or pies made from berries. Scottish celebrations typically included oat cakes and new carrots. In Brittany, customs featured cider and crepes. Protective magic. Horses and cattle were swum in holy wells, rivers, lakes, and the ocean as part of Lughnasadh celebrations. Mythic acts. The most important and persistent myth associated with Lughnasadh is that described in Ca Moitura, the Battle of Moitura, when the Tuatha De Danann, led by Lu, defeated the Fomori who had tried to keep the harvest for themselves. Although the manuscripts placed the battle at Samhain, the underlying mythology pervaded the customs of Lughnasadh. An incident within the battle, when Lu defeats his destructive grandfather, has persisted in somewhat altered form in the folk tradition. Several customs suggest the underlying myths. Mock battles between different groups often took place at Lughnasadh regional fairs, although the mock battles often descended into real melees in more recent times. Folk tradition also spoke of battles between groups of fairies for the best of the harvest. Other tales relate a battle between a hero, usually a saint, and a demon or idol who demanded tribute. Often, the processions to mountaintops commemorated elements of the battle story at stops along the route. Moira McNeill also detected traces of a myth about the kidnapping of a woman, another involving a female figure at a lake, and yet another concerning the death and revivification of a bull. The traces are too incomplete, however, to be sure what the context, details, and meaning of the original story was. Community and social events. Many of the events associated with Lughnasadh fairs reinforced community connections, whether by negotiating contracts, arranging temporary marriages, inaugurating government positions, athletic contests, or through the fun of dancing and music. Ending the harvest. The customs that ended the harvest created a connection with the crops of the following year, closing the cycle. Known as snagging the Kellah in Ulster, the ceremony ritualised the last cut of the grain harvest. The last swathe or sward of corn, known variously as the Kellach, hare, hag or old woman, was plaited with the roots still in the ground. The style of plaiting varied significantly from place to place. One by one, workers threw their hooks or scythes at the plait until it fell free. Once cut, the Kellah was carried into the house and laid firstly around the neck of the master, followed by that of the mistress. Finally, it was placed in the centre of the table while a feast took place around it. In some places, the plait was hung in the house until the next harvest, while in others, it was taken down at Christmas and fed to animals, or in the spring, broken up and mixed with the seed. While the details varied, this ritual ending of the harvest took place throughout the Celtic areas. The flow of the Celtic festivals. Underlying the traditional Celtic workflow was an assumption that we moderns are only beginning to acknowledge. The realization that the ability of this world to sustain life is limited. Because their daily lives were more directly and obviously affected by natural cycles, the ancient and medieval Celts were more aware of the basic fact that resources must be sustained and recycled so the world can continue to support life. Death and rebirth were an essential component of this concept. Consequently, Samhain was the time to evaluate one's life, to remember those who had blessed one's life and gone on, and to treasure those still among the living. Imbolc was a time for blessing the home and celebrating the nurturing forces of life. Beltane focused on what was new, fresh, energetic, growing, and pleasurable. Lughnasadh was the time to give thanks for blessings by offering back the first fruits of the harvest. Honey underground, silver weed of spring, honey and condiment whisked way of summer, honey and fruitage, carrot and autumn, honey and crunching nuts of winter. From the Carmina Gadelica, number 398. Each season has its trials, its duties and its entitlements. The ancient Celts and their descendants traditionally knew how to celebrate the sweetnesses that came with each turn in the endless cycle.
For our second piece of music, we've chosen a wonderful song played and written by Dave the Bard in honour of the festival and the season. It's called Lughnasadh, and he's graciously permitted us to play it for you. We're very fond of this song and play it quite a lot in the car when we're out driving.
It's true.
You can find out more about Dave and his songs in our show notes.
While the year is waning, and all about you the bare fingers plead and reach towards the sky. My crown of thorns about my head, when the dark is rising, and from the shadows walks a god, a seed, a hope for brand new life. Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear them call? Can you hear them sing now? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear them call? Can you hear them sing? Lughnasadh, it's the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and rebirth of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, it's the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and rebirth of the Corn King. I turn my green face to the sun while the year is waxing, and all about animals call my name in forest and in sky. My horns of velvet reflect the moon, silver wheel of my lady. She comes towards me as the May reveals her white and virgin skin. Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear them call? Can you hear them sing now? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear them call? Can you hear them sing? Lughnasadh, it's the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and rebirth of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, it's the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and rebirth of the Corn King. I turn my gold face to the sun while the year is waning. The time has come now for my life to end, as metal rubs on stone. She comes towards me across the fields, chariot wheels are blazing, her hair on fire, cut me, crush me, bake me, eat me, I am yours. Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear them call? Can you hear them sing now? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear the spirits of the earth? Can you hear them call? Can you hear them sing? Lughnasadh, it's the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and rebirth of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, it's the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and rebirth of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, it's is the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and the birth of the Corn King. Lughnasadh is the life and the death of the Corn King. Lughnasadh, life and the birth of the Corn King.
Thank you, Dave the Bard. Now, our main feature is a story from Celtic fantasy romance author Kelley Heckart. I do hope I'm saying her name properly. Kelley describes herself as a stay-at-home wife and mum to 2 dogs. She's a writer, musician and artist living in Arizona with 3 Celtic fantasy romance novels available. They are of Water and Dragons, Raven Wolf and White Rose of Avalon. The piece we're about to perform for you is from White Rose of Avalon. And to set the scene a little for you, with the land falling into Saxon hands, the Christian monks make a pact with Morgane, Queen of the Fairies. She promises to give them a high king who will unite the Britons against the Saxons if he takes a queen from the fairy realm. She hopes this will restore the goddess faith, bringing Avalon back to its rightful place and not hidden within the mists. Lancelot is sent to guard the future High King, but when a love potion falls into the wrong hands, all seems lost. Guinevere is the only hope for the future, but betrayal, revenge, and forbidden love surround her, threatening to destroy the lives of 4 people and send Britain and Avalon into ruins.
Scouts reported that Saxons were gathered on the hill near Aquasulis. One more battle would have to be fought before winter set in. The Saxons could not be left to fester over the long winter. Lancelot watched Arthurius' face, knowing he would give the order for battle. The air felt strange in the feasting hall. Lancelot noticed that Guinevere looked upset, and Arthurius ignored her throughout the meal. He had been quiet around Lancelot of late, and Lancelot wondered if the High King knew of what had happened between them. Gazing around the table at the other chief warriors, Lancelot had a feeling that something was wrong. Gawain smirked at him and turned away. He was still angry with Lancelot for Gareth's death. Arthurius stood.
My faithful companions, gather together your men and prepare for one final battle.
Everyone stood following his command.
Lancelot, I wish to speak with you.
His eyes were not filled with their usual friendliness. As the men left the feasting hall, Gawain shot Lancelot a malicious smile. Lancelot felt his heart squeezed by a powerful hand. Guinevere stayed seated, her eyes downcast.
It seems I've heard something rather disturbing.
Arthurius cast his hard eyes on Guinevere and Lancelot.
Sire?
Lancelot held the High King's gaze.
Lancelot, did you couple with my wife?
Guinevere gasped. Lancelot's heart withered into a dry husk. Arthurius did not look angry. His look was one of great anguish. He could not lie to him and deepen his pain.
I have betrayed you, sire. I will accept any punishment you wish to cast on me, but please do not punish Guinevere. It was my doing.
His voice was a hollow whisper.
Ever the gallant warrior Lancelot of the Lake that you protect the honour of a wanton woman.
Arthurius roared, banging his fist on the hard wooden table. Goblets and plates flew into the air, crashing back down onto the table. Guinevere whimpered with fear at her husband's wrath. Arthurius stared at Guinevere, looking fierce in the flickering firelight. Menacing shadows danced on his face in a wicked, erratic death dance. His demeanour changed when he turned his eyes on Lancelot, his expression turning to one of pain.
I love you like a brother, Lancelot, and I confided in you. How could you betray my trust like that?
The muscles in his neck bulged as he fought to keep control. Lancelot's eyes shimmered with bitter tears.
I will die for the pain I have caused you, sire.
Artorius turned away for a moment, composing himself.
I will not. I cannot kill you, Lancelot. Begone with you. I want never to lay eyes upon you again.
He pointed towards the door. In a softer voice, he said,
You may keep the land I gave to you, Brittany. You earned it.
Lancelot looked one last time at Guinevere, at her tear-stained face and morose eyes. Even with tears staining her face and her eyes red-rimmed from crying, she was a remarkable sight. He wanted to take her into his arms and comfort her, but he pulled himself away. As he walked out of the door, he heard Artorius address Guinevere in a chilling voice.
If you do not give me an heir soon, I will send you away as well.
Lancelot gathered his weapons and packed his leather bag. He ignored the hostile looks directed at him by the other chief warriors. He saddled his horse and rode out the gates, never looking back. He waited in the trees until the army marched out of the fortress and followed them. This would be his last battle at Artorius' side. But he could not let the High King go into this battle without someone protecting his back. Morgaine sent him here to protect Artorius, and he would do that to the very end. Lancelot had his own rations, and he was accustomed to surviving outside without any shelter. He stared at the leather tents of the High King's army, listening to talking and laughter from his former brothers. Lancelot had been alone before, and he knew he would always be alone. The fates laughed at him. He lay down staring at the night sky. The stars and moon reminded him of Morgaine. He missed her and wondered how she had so easily slipped from his grasp. Guinevere's face slipped into his thoughts, and he cursed her fair beauty. She had a hold on him that tightened even when they were apart. He fell asleep, trying to keep her out of his dreams, but she would not relent her hold on him. Dawn arrived in a grey and pink flush, dissipating the morning mist that clung to the trees and dampened the ground. Lancelot found a stream to wash in. He stared at his face, noticing the deep shadows around his eyes. His cheeks were hollow from lack of food. Since his tryst with Guinevere, he'd been suffering inside, and it showed on the outside. He slapped the image with his hand and stood. The army would be moving soon. Lancelot watched Artorius order the first cavalry unit to follow him into battle. Artorius faced the Saxons with the courage of many men, his battle cry of Vae Victus conjuring up the powerful invincible legions of Rome. His soldiers took up the battle cry, sending shivers down Lancelot's spine, and he was eager to join the fray. He felt a sharp pang of regret when he saw that Gawain now commanded the cavalry unit that once belonged to Lancelot, the dragon banner fluttering majestic and courageous. Lancelot kept his eye on Artorius, waiting for the right moment to charge. The cavalry sprang forward, hooves pounding, shaking the ground. The fierce Saxons beat their leather shields with their weapons, and their nerve-shattering battle cries filled the air. Unmindful of the sight of the giant Saxon warriors, who looked as if they were plucked from a nightmare, Lancelot raised his battle fury. Falling in behind the cavalry, he raced to the front near Artorius, heedless of the clods of dewy earth that were stirred by his speeding mount, pelting his armoured back. With sword raised, he became one with the powerful mount beneath him, dodging soldiers and horses that blocked his way as the chaos of battle whirled around him. His one purpose was to protect Artorius. No one seemed to notice him. They were too distracted by the battle, and with his helmet on it was hard to see his face. Ferocious Saxons on foot surrounded Artorius, their axes and swords dripping with blood. Lancelot saw that Artorius was in danger and urged his horse to go faster, coming up alongside the High King. A Saxon sneaked up behind Artorius, grinning as he readied the death blow to the tender neck below the helmet. Lancelot moved with the swiftness of a roaring arrow, bringing his sword down onto the Saxon's shoulder. The Saxon screamed, falling in a bloody heap on the ground. In a battle fury, Artorius swung his head and sword round ready to strike the enemy, staring Lancelot in the eyes. His grey eyes lit up with surprise, and his sword stopped mere inches from Lancelot's neck. Lancelot did not flinch. There was no time for any words between them. The battle closed in around them in a fury. The clash of metal on metal and the sickening sounds of sharp metal cutting into soft flesh surrounded them, along with the shrieks of the mortally wounded. They fought horse to horse, back to back, their war horses snorting like enraged beasts of the underworld, striking down the enemy as they swarmed over the hill like a raging fire until 960 Saxon chiefs had fallen. The dragon banner of Artorius' great army fluttered, victorious and noble in the gentle breeze. Screams and moans filled the air as the dead and the dying lay scattered on the hillside, their mangled bodies a grim reminder of the horrors of warfare and the effects of swords and axes on the fragile human body. Blood and gore coated the green hill, turning it to crimson. Carrion birds gathered, darkening the sky, waiting to feast on the dead. The eaters of the dead would carry the souls back to the other world, to the land of everlasting youth. Battle-weary, Lancelot guided his horse away from the battlefield. His duty was finished. The Saxons were defeated. He did not know where he would go. He wanted to run to Morgane and seek comfort in her arms. Could he face Morgane? She would know that something was wrong, and he could not face her after betraying her love. His thoughts were distracted, and he did not see Artorius until after their horses met nose to nose.
I was leaving. You'll never see me again.
Artorius' stern grey eyes rested on him.
I need to know why you betrayed me as you did.
If I knew myself, I would tell you. I do not know. It just happened. If I could take it all back, I would, for all the pain I've caused.
He nodded.
I cannot forgive you right now, Lancelot, but I wish you no ill will, and I will never forget you. You are like a brother to me. Farewell.
Artorius pulled on the reins, guiding his horse to step to the side, allowing Lancelot to pass.
Farewell, my king and brother. I will not forget you either.
Lancelot urged his horse into a trot, leaving the blood-spattered battlefield and his life behind.
Oh, well, that was great, wasn't it?
Absolutely super story. I can't wait to read the rest of the book, actually.
Yeah, me too. There are so many good books out there that I really do want to read. Seems that the longer we go, the more books are written.
Yes, and we just don't have the time to read and record and script. I think we might have to take a holiday next year so we can actually catch up with our book reading.
Yeah, do you think we can put in a plea to get like 8 days shoved into a 7-day week?
Oh, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Actually, if we could do 10 days in a 7-day week, we'd have no problem whatsoever.
Everything else has gone decimal, why not the week?
Well, that's right.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, our next piece and our last piece of music is an astounding song by Kellianna. Her website tells us that she's an accomplished musician and performer worldwide. She has 2 CDs, Lady Moon and I Walk with the Goddess, and they're being recognised around the globe as a must-have for any lover of goddess-inspired folk music. Her live shows are a combination of acoustic guitar songs and chants to the god and goddess. She's a certified teacher of spirit song, a powerful tool for freeing your voice. Do you know, sorry to interrupt myself there, but
yes.
I've never heard of spirit song before.
No, I haven't, but whatever it is, it definitely works for Kellianna.
Yeah, there's something in her voice, isn't there, that's
absolutely beautiful.
Quite astounding. Sorry, anyway, back to it. And she describes spirit song as a powerful tool for freeing your voice, for accessing the authentic sound that is you, and for entering into spirit.
Kellianna has given us permission to play the next track, Warrior Queen, for you. The Warrior Queen is a wonderful piece of music. It conveys so much emotion. I absolutely love this song. And I think it maybe captures the feelings that accompanied death for the Celts. But see what you think anyway.
I died here with honor today, warrior queen with my sword by my side. through the mountains and groves to the land of my birth. They will make me a funeral pyre, where my bones turn to dust and my flesh turns to fire. To Valhalla I'll go, to gaze on the face of my king and my sons. There'll be a feast laid for me, warrior queen with a Valkyrie shield. I watch them carry me over the lands, on through the fields and the farms. People are waiting to watch me pass by. Look now, our queen's coming home. Now they are carrying me home, through the mountains and groves to the land of my birth. They will make me a funeral pyre, where my bones turn to dust and my flesh turns to fire. To the land of my birth, set flame to my funeral pyre, and my bones are now dust and my flesh gone to fire.
And thank you so much, Kellianna.
What did you think of that? We're coming towards the end of the show now, and we'd like to bring you a promo for another podcast, and in this case it's 2 podcasts and 2 books.
We have a double trouble promo for you.
Yes, that's
promoting
true.
Books and also podcasts.
This ought to teach him.
Evening, Brownie. How about you step away from the axe?
I am not a brownie. I am a fae.
Fae? Wait a second. Robin Goodfellow.
Ah, so you know of Pack the Trickster?
Yeah, I know you. Acrianus, the Giddy Galleon, a dice game. Remember me?
Oh. Billibub Baddings. Of course.
Kinda rude, don't you think, to come calling on an old friend from the stomping grounds and just help yourself to his weapons. Sounds like trouble.
Well, you started it.
Beg your pardon?
You stole a scribe's birthday. My cousin's scribe. The Dark Goddess isn't pleased you're releasing your new adventure on 080808.
That's why the promo's called Billy's Crazy Eights Shifter. August 8th is when the Case of the Pitcher's Pendant is out on Amazon.com, and I'm looking for listeners to give up the greenbacks for the Dwarf Detective.
Well, aren't we feeling a bit full of ourselves? Scrappy? Or perchance you do not know that Digital Magic, the sequel to Chasing the Bard, will also be available for purchase on August 8th. Happy birthday, Pip!
2 sequels to 2 award-nominated books, available on the same date? Like I said, sounds like trouble.
Yes, double trouble.
On August 8th, 2008, show your support for the Dwarf Detective, the Fey Trickster, and podcast fiction. Purchase your copies of The Case of the Pitcher's Pendant by T. Morris and Digital Magic by Philippa Ballantine on Amazon.com. We've seen the days of the FDO and Palm's Daddy. Now comes 8808, the day of double trouble.
All right, so we're working together. Behave.
You think you can make me?
I got Beatrice here. What do you got? Not bad, Shifter. Not bad.
Gary, can you tell us a bit more about these podcasts?
Sure. There are 2. And the first is based on a new book by T. Morris called The Pitcher's Pendant, a Billibub Baddings mystery. And in The Pitcher's Pendant, the hero is a 4'1" dwarf named Billibub Baddings.
Great.
Superb name, isn't it? Who's a private detective in the Prohibition world of 1930s Chicago. As he says, Chicago, 1929. There are 1,000 stories in the naked city. And when you're a dwarf at 4'1", they all look that much taller. Sorry about the voice. The second book, and hopefully accompanying podcast, is Digital Magic by Philippa Ballantine. Digital Magic is a follow-on to Chasing the Bard, which we've talked to you about before, which is a lovely book. And it concerns the involvement of the Fae in the world of Shakespeare. Digital Magic takes this story further into the future.
Abandoned in our world, Puck the Trickster from Chasing the Bard is much changed. Magic has dimmed and science has taken its place. In the small English village of Penherem, though, memories of a Fae are
Starring? Starring in a Broadway production?
Apparently.
Maybe not.
In the small English village of Penherem, though, memories of Fae are stirring. Puck senses things he has not for centuries, and is drawn to find out what lurks beneath the surface of a village. Magic may be gone from most of England, but art still dwells in other lands, and a child from distant New Zealand may carry within her the seeds of its rebirth.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
It does, actually.
Another great story about the Fae.
Both books should be available on Amazon.com as you listen to this, although a PDF of each book can be found in each author's podcast feed. We'd also like to wish Philippa Ballantine a happy birthday for today, the 8th of August.
Yep. Happy birthday, Pip.
Happy birthday, Pip.
And that rounds up the show for this time. And until next time, Gora Maragut, Agus, Slán go bhfuil. I nearly forgot it.
Some are not solely the myths and legend, but rather have an academic bend on them.
Bend on them?
To them.
A legend with a bend?
Interesting.
Long years passed by as the sons of the Gale made kingdoms for themselves.
Made what exactly of themselves?
On the head of your children. Check that out.
Dancing actor. You've been listening to the Celtic Myth Pod Show, available from CelticMythPodShow.com. We hope you've enjoyed the show and will stay tuned for the next episode. You can send us a quick email or voice feedback by emailing either Gary, that's Gary, or Ruth, Ruth, at CelticMythPodShow.com. You can chat to us in the forums on our website. The show notes for this episode can also be found on the website. We'd like to say a special thank you to Kulan's Hound, who provided us with the theme music for our show. You heard Hag Hole at the beginning and are listening to The Skylark now. You can find out more about this foot-stomping band at www.sfhounds.com. And thanks again to Diane Arkinstone and Kim Robertson, whose music has been used for some of the incidental music in this podcast. You'll find links to their websites in our show notes.